All right, everyone. So for this problem, we're going to go over what's called a literal equation. A literal equation is essentially the same exact way that you've seen all the other equations that you've been working up to this point. But an extra thing you might have noticed is that now there's no longer just one variable, one letter. Now there's two of them. But the fact that there's two of them doesn't really change what we're going to do in order to solve this equation. In fact, we're still going to be solving for x like this problem once. And we're still actually going to take the same exact steps as we would in any other equation. The only real difference is we just kind of have this kind of annoying y to deal with. So because we're solving this equation for x, what we're going to want to do is get this -2 term by itself. That's exactly what we want. So in order to do that, to get that term by itself, on this left-hand side, we want that 6y to go over to the right. Now, in order to do that, as I mentioned before, we're going to take the same exact steps. So since we want to move that entire 6y over, we're going to subtract it on both sides. We're subtracting because that 6y is positive, and 6 minus 6 is 0, and that's going to cancel that guy out. So, no more of that. And now we rewrite what we have. Now, the one thing that's going to trip up some students here is the fact that we can't actually combine these terms. One thing has a y and the other thing doesn't have a y. So because of that, what we're going to do is quite literally write it exactly as we see it. Can't combine them, can't really do anything else with it. Now, the next step, what we want to do is to get just x alone. We got to get rid of that -2 on the left-hand side. So you might have also seen problems before where you had a constant, a coefficient in front of that variable. We want to get rid of it. Well, guess what? We're doing the same steps as we would in other equations. So here, because it's -2x, they're being multiplied, so to get rid of it, we're going to divide. And again, we kind of have two choices. We can leave it as this 1 minus 6y over -2, depending on what your teacher wants or what the actual computer program wants. Or what else we can do is divide the numerator, that 1 minus 6y. We divide both of those terms using that -2. So another way of writing this, the first thing we have is 1 divided by -2. A positive divided by a negative gives us a negative. And 1 divided by 2, we can't reduce that. We can't really do anything with it. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it alone. Leave it just as is. And then for this last one, we have a -6y divided by a -2. Negative divided by a negative gives us a positive. 6 divided by 2 we can do. We get 3. And that y just kind of tags along for the ride. So both of these are correct. Again, it depends on whatever your teacher or what the program wants. But just kind of like as we saw, we took, exactly as mentioned, the same exact steps you would as in the other equation. Just be careful that with that first one we did, for example, we're worrying about combining like terms. It's something you kind of don't really do that often when you're doing literal equations. We're just kind of rewriting it, so to speak.